Hi Stitchers, welcome to Tatreez Talk, where we share conversations about Palestinian embroidery. I'm Lena, here with my co-host Amani, chatting with talented embroiderers and artists, sharing their stories, inspirations, and the cultural significance behind their work.
On today's episode, we are chatting with Kiki, a St. Louis-based multi-hyphenate artist, weaver, designer, sculptor, writer, educator, and entrepreneur. All the hyphens, I love it. Through various mediums with textiles and material studies at the focus, her practice covers topics of escapism, experimental visual pattern development, linguistic hybridization. Woo, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Orientalism and the Palestinian question. Kiki is a member of the Screwed Arts Collective in St. Louis. Her wearable collection that everyone has seen, Punk Ass Arab, can be found on Instagram. So welcome to Tatreez Talk, Kiki. We are so excited to have you. I'm personally very thrilled too.
I'm really excited to be here. I'm so glad that you guys invited me. I wish I had known about the podcast earlier. So when you guys reached out, I've been listening to a new episode
Oh,
every day, and I'm like,
Yay!
oh my god, this is so cool. Wait, I follow this person. Oh, yeah,
yeah, I love that. That's what we want. And whenever you discover the podcast, as long as you discover it and have it gives you something, that's all we really want. So I'm glad that it's resonating with you. And we're glad that we're having you on here now today.
grateful to be here.
Amazing, amazing. So Kiki, to get us started, how about you share with our listeners a little bit about you and your family's connection to Palestine?
Yeah. So I was born in Palestine. Um, my family's from there. My mom is half Palestinian, half Brazilian. My mom was born in Brazil. My dad was born in Palestine. All my siblings were born in the States, but I happened to be the Oslo baby of the family. So I was born. And yeah, I'm from Betin, which is right outside of Elvira and Ramallah.
Hmm.
And yeah, I grew up between Palestine and the United States. That's my connection. I don't know, Lowe's and Zaytoon and all the other little cities that my connection to, but yeah.
I love it. And it's funny because when I did reach out and you told me that your mom is half Brazilian, I was like, wait, what? Are we related? And I'm still trying to figure out if we are because we might be.
Potentially, man, the Kebabis and Betin, they are the reason that my family went
Yeah.
to visit.
Well, and my mom was telling me that I guess when a lot of the men came from El Kebab to Brazil, they kind of had to spread out. And so we do my mom was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I had an uncle who lived in Mato Grosso, which I know is where your mom was from. So we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But eventually we'll have to figure out that tie.
Yeah.
But also going into your family history, you grew up, I guess you were born in Palestine and you kind of grew up between there and the States. How was that experience for you? When did you leave Palestine and what was that like coming to the States, because I'm sure that was a huge culture shock.
We left a few times. So I was born
Okay.
there, and then a few months after I was born, my mom had us back in the States. And so
Okay.
my early first memories were we lived in Dayton, Ohio, which
Mm.
is it's a cool town actually. And we were very deeply ingrained in the Muslim community there, which is a small community. So but it was small and diverse, which was tight.
Mm-hmm.
I feel in bigger cities, a lot of the Muslim communities will self-segregate based off
Yes.
nationality or race or whatever, and that in a place like Dayton, Ohio, you can't actually do that to have a tight knit Muslim community. And
Mm.
so yeah, I went to the Dayton Islamic School for preschool, and then we were back in Palestine, and so I
Mm-hmm.
did pre-K or kindergarten or whatever in Palestine, and then the second Intifada. So yeah, we moved and when the second Intifada started.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were back in Dayton. Yeah. And then a few years later, it was all right, we're going back to Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
And so from 2005 to 2008, I was in Palestine, which was arguably some of the wildest times to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, elections in Palestine that year, and a
Yeah.
coup
Yeah.
in Palestine that year, and Hezbollah, and Israel, situation in
Mm-hmm.
Palestine. So yeah, like I guess yeah, also like the Gaza blockade started when I lived there. Like there were just like a bunch of stacked like formative political stuff that happened
Mm-hmm.
between the age of like 9 and 13 for me while I was in Palestine. And
Mm-hmm.
then I moved to like Missouri, like when I was like starting 8th grade. So yeah, there was definitely a culture shock. I officially like started going by Kiki in the public after,
Mm-hmm.
'cause, like my real name is Ella, and like
Mm-hmm.
the like hicks that I went to school with like would make fun
Mm-hmm.
of my name.
Mm.
And so yeah, little things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
um, overall, like I've always been around like my Arab family and my Muslims
Yeah.
and just like good people. So culture
Yeah.
shock, sort of. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
every time I go to Palestine, like and come back to the States, I have like cultural, political shock, and I'm just like, oh my God, I can't leave my house for like 2 weeks. Like America sucks.
Whew, yeah. Do you in okay? So in St. Louis, like, was there when you like kind of planted yourself there? Like, was there a Palestinian community that you were able to connect with there?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I have like family like who like my mom's like parents
Hmm.
immigrated to St. Louis with my mom in the 80s. So
Okay.
like my mom even had like established roots here like before we
Okay.
moved to St. Louis in like the mid 2000s. So a lot of my khatis lived in St. Louis or live in St. Louis, and then like my dad had a couple brothers who live here. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely like a big Batini community and like other Palestinians from different villages around who live in St. Louis, and it was
Okay.
pretty yeah, it was pretty easy to get connected. Um,
Nice. No,
yeah.
that's really cool because I know sometimes like people will move to places where there is no community and that can be really hard even if you have like plenty of family. It's like sometimes you need people outside of your family.
No,
uh
that's real. I feel like when I lived in, I went and did undergrad in Chicago,
mhm,
and I there were like Palestinians in my program, like at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, but
mhm,
like there's also like this massive Palestinian community down in the south suburbs out there. Like it's one of the
Yeah.
yeah.
largest Palestinian communities outside of Palestine. And like I didn't really get tapped into that like community. It wasn't until like one of like my last year in Chicago that I like tapped into a Palestinian community out there, and it was like an amazing, amazing, amazing group of people that I met. And I'm still
Mhm,
really good friends with all of them. But they were a lot of them were like transplants to Chicago. Like there's a
mhm,
really cool like queer community out there that like is just like all the love that like
mhm,
anyone could ever need, they'll get out of
mhm.
it. So yeah,
That's
loved it.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, and transitioning to Tatreez, want to hear. I love the like smile on your face that you got. So want to hear about your Tatreez journey because I know you started your Tatreez journey like at a fairly young age. How did you learn? Like, do you remember like what you thought about Tatreez because you were at such a young age? Like, do you remember like what your idea was when someone was like, "I want to teach you Tatreez," or was it something that you wanted to learn?
Yeah, I mean like it I guess growing up, like we never like me, I'm one of four sisters. And
Hmm.
like and my mom like never really wore yeah, but like me and my sisters never really had thobes. I
Yeah.
remember like if we were going to a wedding, like we'd borrow thobes from like our friends who had like
Mm.
other daughters,
Hmm.
if you had to spare. And so like yeah, I mean when we moved to Palestine in '05, I was like 9,
Hmm.
and my Martami, like who lived upstairs from us, like I would just go and hang out with her. So I learned a lot
Hmm.
about like Palestinian culture from her. About
Hmm.
like how to make ajin, how to make pickles, like how to make tatli. But
So
like one of the
cute.
things was like I would just be sitting in the living room with Nejwa, and like she'd be like watching TV and stitching, like and
Hmm.
Yeah.
like looking at the screen, but like perfectly stitching these beautiful like pieces. And so I was just like, how do you do that? And so she showed me like immediately, like, like do this one stitch and then like go back. Like
Hmm.
do a row of stitches and go back, and like that's how I learned how to cross stitch. But it was very like quick and easy for me because I was already like sort of just like a creative kid. I was like into working
Mm-hmm.
with my hands already. So I learned how to make an X very easily. And I think like I liked it. And my sister, one of my older sisters, like had a Tatreez project in like her home economics class in Palestine. And so like I remember like my mom going and buying her supplies, and I was like, buy me some too. And we did we it's funny because like we like she like ended up like doing like an iron on the like Ida cloth or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Ida or
Yeah,
Ida?
Ida. I call it
Ada.
Ida.
Okay, cool.
Ida.
I
Ada.
call it Ida too. So on the Ida cloth, like she just did like some kind of like cheesy iron on that had nothing to do with the Palestini patterns. And
Yeah.
I was just okay, you can cross stitch this, and I was like, cool, and I did. And yeah, that's sort of how I got into stitching and embroidery and like textiles in general.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until like years later that I actually got into like the Palestini patterns, which is
Mm-hmm.
wild. But yeah, Nejwa's my
Wow.
connection. Shout out to my family for that.
Yeah. Wait, so then your aunt, she wasn't doing Palestinian patterns in front of the
No,
TV?
she was. Oh my
Oh,
God,
okay.
She
she
Okay.
was, but you weren't. Okay.
mirrors and lampshades and anything that like she wanted to make, she was making. It was like
Love that.
I learned from her and like through her pattern making.
Mm-hmm.
Like I learned like a technical process from her. But
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't until years later that like the cultural process came
Mm-hmm.
in, and it was through the punk ass era brand because I was like, I
No
started that
way.
brand. Yeah, I started that brand by like embroidering baseball caps with Tatreez patterns, like the
Oh.
dad
Oh.
hat. And so I was like, and like I feel like at that point I had already like embroidered enough like stuff these like Palestini stuff like that was like my thing throughout college. Like I'd just be like
Mm-hmm.
instead of like doodling in a notebook, I'd just be like submitting
Stitching.
in class.
Yeah, I
But
love
like
it.
after we graduated college, I was like, okay, like I'm gonna put this into a practice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but by then I had already studied so many patterns, like through printing. Like I would print like these patterns, and, like
Mm-hmm.
do like really cool like other stuff with the patterns. But like, yeah, I don't know. It was like a reverse weird connection that I had with it.
Mm-hmm.
Where like I learned the technical process through like a Tatreez master, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like very later on, like was when I was like, oh, okay, like stitching waist canvas onto like a hat,
Mm-hmm.
and then like just like running a pattern real quick and selling it for $50. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
and I did so many of them that I got like really, really good at really good at it.
Mm-hmm. That's so
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so how did, I guess, then taking a little bit of a step back, because it is clearly a part of your Tetris journey, like how did punk ass era begin? Like what was the inspiration, the story behind starting it?
I think like at the time I was like, man, like, I just graduated art school and like I can do all the paintings and prints and whatever that I want to, but like there's like a need for me to like actually build a career. And so
Mm-hmm.
the punk ass era started because I needed bread. Right? Like and so I was
That's
like,
real.
yeah, exactly. But like yeah, I was like, all right, I need to make money and like, I'm pretty sure like I can just like draw some cool shit and like
Hmm.
put it on a shirt and sell it. And
Hmm.
that's exactly what happened. So I knew how to screen print like
Hmm.
from college, but like when I was in like during my undergrad, like I was printing like yardage of fabric. So I was like doing like
Hmm.
patches, silk screens, crazy cool, like crazy stuff, these patterns and whatever patterns I wanted to,
Yeah.
like of like really big like yards and yards of fabric and just like printing
Hmm.
down a row. But like, screen printing shirts is a little different and there's like a different process to it all.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I rented a studio. Like I moved from Chicago to St. Louis and rented a studio. And like, I remember when I was in Chicago, like telling my friends, like, I need to just start this brand. Like, I'm just gonna dip out. Like, it's so much more affordable to live in St. Louis. Like, actually like, rent a studio there and like go
Hmm.
on vacations and do whatever and hang out with my family. Like, I'm going back to
Yeah.
St. Louis and I'm gonna start this brand. And like 6 months later, I like definitely like had a studio and like had started a brand. Like, and so like
That's awesome.
that's where
That's
it
Yeah.
so
came from.
cool.
Yeah, it was
That's
fun.
really cool. Okay,
Yeah,
so Tatreez has like always been a part of your art, it seems like, right? Like you said, like even before you dove back into like actually stitching Tatreez was a part of your art journey through college, right? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, again, so it was like there would just be like projects that I would do and like would be like, you know what, I'm just gonna rock with like a massive pattern and like
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be like, all right, that's the way. Or like I had taken a bunch of weaving classes in college, so like I know how
Mm-hmm.
to like, use a floor loom and stuff, and like part of weaving is like coding the fabric, and so I'd
Mm-hmm.
code Sutherese patterns into the fabric.
Oh,
And
Yes.
so like
I
and
would take that class, by the way.
it makes for a very beautiful cloth, like more of a tapestry than anything is actually.
Yeah.
But it's like to like get like the the like the tree, which is what you
Mm-hmm.
want.
Mm-hmm.
Like to get that just like actually in the woven code of a fabric is a little
Mm-hmm.
different than embroidering. And so yeah, I was definitely already on the Japanese patterns, like late teens, mid teens, whatever. Like I would just like randomly pick up cloth, like because I've had like the supplies my whole life at this point. Like anytime I go to
Yeah.
Michael's, I always pick up needles or whatever. I'm a bit of a hoarder
Relatable.
at this point. I'm a bit of a hoarder at this point. But yeah, no, like and so I'd like like make my sister a patch for her jacket, like stuff these
Mm-hmm.
on it. But yeah, it's like it's interesting how like the actual act of embroidery like falls back into my practice. Like it'll lay dormant for a year or 2 years. I
Yeah.
don't actually, like, do a lot of embroidery, but I'm constantly. Like I have like 10 like graphic little like gridded sketchbooks
Mm-hmm.
specifically like, and I'll just like draw up these designs all the
Yep.
time. Like on the iPad, I'm drawing up these designs and like melting them down and making weird distortions. Um, yeah, and then yeah, that's sort of where my Japanese practice has been. It's
Yeah.
literally all over the place.
I love that though. It's so I forgot who it was, Lena. I think it might have been like when we chatted with Bayan the first time, but um she had said something, hopefully it was her. And I'm paraphrasing, but had talked about the fact that like if Palestine had never been occupied and we were able to continue to live and grow and flourish in Palestine, like the Tatreez would have continued to innovate at a much quicker speed, right? And so I love that, like, that's actually something that I am very interested to explore is like, because I came to art very heavily through the physical act of stitching Tatreez, but I love how you incorporate Tatreez into multiple mediums of art. And I think that's in a way like speaks to like you as an artist, like in the diaspora, but like who always had a foot in Palestine too. Like it's just it's really it's I just think we need more of that. So sorry, I'm fangirling now, but like I really
That's sort of one of those things. Like I'm like I love to honor the
hmm
tradition. Like my grandmother, like my dad's mom, I never met her, Allah yarhamha.
hmm I love
But
it.
like my Siti Fatma was a master Japanese artist. Like I'm like I've seen her work and I'm like always mind blown. Like she was the kind of person to do like the tiny stitches with the waist canvas on like
Yes, I
that
love
whole
it.
routine. Yeah, I
Hmm
mean like she like built a whole practice before she ever got married. Like I think when she was like 12, she started like stitching and making dresses. Or like maybe
Wow,
she started
mashallah.
stitching when she was 9, but like
Hmm
she was like sought after for her stitching and her dressmaking by the time she was 12. And she didn't get married till
Dope.
she was 30. And this was like in like the 30s and
Yeah,
40s. Like
yeah.
like
Wow.
she was 49 years old when she had my dad and
Wow,
his twin sister.
mashallah.
Yeah. But like she definitely had like my grandma like was like she made a business out of Tatreez from a very young age
Hmm
and was super good at it. Like from what I've understood, like she would develop patterns and people
hmm
would like she wouldn't let people look at her dresses too long so they didn't steal her designs.
I love
Yeah,
it.
and like there's one person in the Beled right now who has like a few of her thobes, which is her niece, and like she doesn't let people study the designs too much. But like every time I go back to Palestine, I'll visit my auntie, my dad's sister,
Hmm
and she has like my grandma's like black velvet thobe with the red stitching, and she
hmm
has the white linen one with the red stitching, and then there's like There's the Jen No Nod one. Do you guys know about those ones?
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's that one, and like it has like the OG like striped velvet fabric, and like oh like
Ooh.
oh yeah
So
yeah yeah,
good.
and then also like the short sleeve jacket, and
Uh-huh.
then the two okas, which are like the headpieces from
Mm-hmm.
the mullet area.
Love a headpiece.
And like I will be like pull out cities sold. I gotta say every time I go there, my auntie gets annoyed by it, but I'm like I don't care. I want to see, and it's crazy because like I've never seen like any patterns like the ones
Mhm.
my grandma has, and so I'll just be like taking photos.
Yeah.
But like it's pretty interesting, and so like I guess I don't know. I was listening to the episode that you guys had with Wafat,
Mm-hmm.
and like that like inherited
I was just
Yeah,
gonna
I
say.
literally was just
I'm
gonna say
like,
that
it is
too. Yeah.
so there for me. Like, I totally feel it. I like literally was like, I was like shopping in the grocery store right before Dawn and was like, what fat like said that, and I was like, hold up, fucking drop these buses. Oh my god, mind blowing. That I feel it. But yeah,
Yes, I was totally thinking that as you
Oh
were
my god.
talking about it, because like your story is so ingrained, like your Tatreez journey is so ingrained in your family too, which is just that's really beautiful and special. And your
It's a
sitto is with
hundred
you.
percent in your blood. Yeah, she is
Yeah.
speaking through you.
I'm like, hopefully, I'm conditioning or continuing and like honoring this tradition. Like, I am totally hitting the refresh button as
Mm-hmm.
much as I'm trying to hit the preserve button at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
But I
mean,
think
I
that's
don't know.
important. I think we do need a
Yeah.
refresh and we do need like I think what you were saying I feel like that when I still stitch, like pieces on fabric that I frame and stuff, but I for example, I take a very quote unquote modern approach when it comes to color. Like I don't really use quote unquote traditional colors. And I think it's important because it tells your individual story. Like the way you are creating with the threes, it's telling who you are as a Palestinian. And like we're all like we all have these different stories and experiences, but at the same time, they are so blended together through Tatreez and through Palestine. So I think it's important to have your own like quote unquote refresh of Tatreez, and you
Yeah,
see the tradition in it for sure.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I'm glad to because again, like I learned the right way to start,
Yeah.
but then like again, it went dormant, and like by the time I picked it back up again, my brain was like in so many different mediums,
Mm.
and I was like,
Mhm.
like these, there's like already a blueprint for me with the patterns, and
Mhm.
also like at this point, like I can make my own patterns up, and I can like I can I'm not gonna sorry, I can mess it all up with some like really a traditional colors, like, and
Yeah.
that's really where it's been for me is like because I got a pretty good hand in color theory at this point, like
Mhm.
got a mastery of that, thank God. But yeah, I just like I know what goes well with others, and like oh,
Yes.
it's been a game changer with the iPad. Like I like will
Mhm.
just like draw stuff in Procreate, and just like, nope, that's not the right color. Nope, color drop, color fill. But yeah, it's been cool. I really enjoy it.
You
So
can tell. We can feel it.
Wait, and that's actually really cool that you're using technology to kind of evolve the vision that you have in your mind to make it just right. I'm actually really curious because I'm supporting a lot of women, Amani included, in designing like their own athwab. And the tools that are available that are like stitching specific or stitching focus are kind of a pain to use. So like when you're talking about like how easy it is to just like plug in those colors to test things out, like please share more because I'm really
yeah,
curious.
again, like I use Procreate, which is just
Okay.
like the standard like app for like I have the Apple Pencil, like the fancy
Mhm.
iPad. But
Yeah.
like yeah, I'll basically so on Procreate there's like a grid like
Okay.
pen, and so I'll just like do the background in a grid and then just
Yeah.
like draw a subspace pattern over it in a separate layer.
Yeah.
And from there you can just color fill the subspace
That's
pattern.
Yeah.
amazing. That's so
And so yeah,
cool.
that's
Yeah.
kind of what it goes to me. Yeah. And I guess it's funny because I used to be so anti technology. Like
Mhm.
I hated Photoshop, I hated Illustrator. And I remember like taking a class, just like to finish my degree up, which was like it was a graphic design class for like on the Max. And like I remember like hating every assignment. It was like make a brochure and like make a calendar, and then like the day like when the assignment to make like an animated GIF or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like that assignment, I was just like, okay, what? I don't really like, I'm not intrigued by any of the examples this professor is giving us. And so I just started like drawing Tatreez in Illustrator, and like would draw different frames for an animation, and like
Yeah.
and so then I'd plug it into like Photoshop to make an animation out of it, and that's how I started animating Tapreez, which ended up
Wow.
taking on like this crazy, like my work has shown in New York off of animations, like
Yeah.
which is wild, and like they're really really cool hypnotizing situations. But yeah, I used to be super anti-tech, but like I learned how to do graphic design through like my Tapreez work. I'll say that.
Wow,
Period.
that's amazing.
That is
That's
so
so
cool.
cool.
I
Wow,
love
wow,
that.
wow.
And you're exposing it to like a new audience through a new medium too,
Um,
which I think is also important. But wow.
I'm grateful. I mean, like it's like that. A like our work is beautiful. I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
the Crusaders would take our fabric to
That
Europe,
part.
and then like now like all of Europe has like our like textiles like woven in their sweaters and shit. So
Mm-hmm.
like I mean,
Yep.
our work is actually beautiful, and like people are drawn to it. I'll say that. And so like
Mm-hmm.
it's funny, like the New York show I was just talking about, which was a really really cool show. It was called A Thought Is a Memory and Fikra Dikra, and it was curated by Noel Maghafi, who is a
Mm-hmm.
Palestinian from Al Khalil.
Mm-hmm.
And they curated um, four Arab women into a show in
Mm-hmm.
New York, and I think it was like never done before until like
That's amazing.
2023. And so it was
That's
it was
crazy.
pretty tight. Non-binary and women.
Mm-hmm.
And like yeah, it was a really amazing show, and like they were like, can we put your animations, but like also like we want like your project, like we need you to make projection screens and like have like paintings on the back of them so that people can like interact with your work different. I was like, say less, homie, I got you. And I was just like, let me make like a crazy painting with like Tatreez dripping, and then like the other side is
Yes.
just like an animation of flashing patterns, and like one of the screens they had like that I had sent like got like installed in like the foyer of the gallery right like on the street, and like they were like, we're so glad like we put this piece up here because like everyone just like stopped and like
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
like it's the Kiki effect, like your stuff is like a magnet to the gallery now. And I was like,
I love
"Thanks,
it. The
I'm so glad
Kiki
that the front desk."
effect.
They're like, yeah, it's the Kiki effect. I was like, okay, word. And they're like, yeah, like people just like stop on the sidewalk, stare at the thing, and will come into the gallery and see the work. And I was like, that's tight. I love that. Like, and it's all this like
Yes.
hypnotic Tetris pattern loop that's happening. So the animation's been really, really fun and like a cool exploration of like how humans interact with our stuff. So
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to include some of these links in the show notes because
Mm-hmm.
I'm like already mesmerized just listening to you describe it, but I can't even imagine
Right.
experiencing it as
you
well.
gotta just scroll through my Instagram and you'll see some of the animations I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's
They're pretty
awesome.
great.
It's funny too because we had before we started recording, I had said like I discovered your work, Kiki, like um I don't know when it was, like maybe like a few like last year maybe or like
It
six
was
months
this
ago. Who
summer.
knows?
Not
It was this
yeah,
summer, yeah.
at
So
least this summer because I made that mural in the summer.
yeah, and so we'll link it in the show notes, but like Kiki did this beautiful mural that incorporates the trees and I saw it and it was so cool because to your point it was very different. Like you were talking about the how you play with color and when you said that I instantly in my head visualized that mural because I was like, yeah, I see that like totally. And I was saying I was like, ooh, that's my fantasy. One day when I buy a house, Kiki's gonna give me a mural, a Tatreez mural in my house. So we're putting that out in the universe,
Yeah,
recording it so it
yeah.
happens.
I
But
like
yeah, I was gonna say like I just like I think it's very interesting how you've played with the different mediums. And do you have like a favorite medium, specifically when we're talking about like approaching Tatreez.
Not really. It just depends on like I think each medium has its own it has its own like identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so like a mural that's like larger than life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't compare that to like an animation or like a cool dad hat, like
Yeah.
whatever, like a baseball hat. Like for me, I'm like I also like will like buy a thobe and like add more Japanese to it.
Oh,
Like
that's
a second hand
interesting.
thobe.
Yeah.
Like and so I'm like that's a cool collaboration with a woman who gave up her thobe.
Oh my God,
For
I
me, I'm like
love
this
that.
yeah
Oh
yeah
my
yeah.
goodness. Yeah, I'm
I
stealing
love
that
that so
idea. That is
much.
so
Good, cool.
cool.
I like when I go to Palestine, I've gone like every summer for the past 2 years, and inshallah
Hmm.
I'll go again this summer. Um,
Inshallah.
but like basically like I'll like in my free time I hang out with a hayata, like a seamstress, and she's just like
I love this.
people in and out of her little like garage
Hmm.
workshop, like from all over. Because like a lot of American women show up to Palestine and they're like, we need our clothes. My son's getting married. Da 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 da. We need kids. We
Yeah.
can't go. Like and so like I'll be hanging out with Rania and it's pretty cool. Like because people will also come to her and sell their old clothes. And
Mhm.
so I'm like, dang man, like I wish this little shouty like had like bigger boobs, like, 'cause this stove is great, but my it won't fit me, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, we can fix that. Like, how do we fix that? Like, and so like I'll just like do like crazy collabos with Rania on thobes, like, and just
I
be like,
love
all
this.
right, like, how do we preserve the bottom of this thobe, but also like chop it to make it a short thobe so that
Yeah.
I can wear it to a wedding when I go back to the States. Or like,
Hmm.
I want a T-shirt though, but I want like the bottom of the sleeve to be on the top, and I know that my arms, And so like it's also like cool to do stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
I always have seen like how people like cut up those and repurpose them to onto a hoodie or something. I sort of
Yeah.
hate
Hmm.
that. I'm not gonna
Hmm.
lie, I can't stand it.
Hmm.
But like to like cut a thobe and keep it a thobe, but make it a
Hmm.
little different. Like I'm like, I want a
Hmm.
side split. Like, how do I
Hmm.
have a batch on my thobe? Like, put a window there. Like, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, Kiki, what are you gonna do next? And I'm like, we don't see, but like for now, let's focus on this project. T-shirt thobe, let's go. Yeah. Um,
We need to meet this Rania when
Yeah.
we're
Ramia's
when we're in
amazing.
Palestine.
Ramia's hella funny, hella cool.
I
She's
love
like
it.
definitely. I'll like be hanging out with her and like and then like I'll be like, hey, like, can I keep the scraps from all the
Hmm.
clothes? She'll just cut right into like hand embroidered stuff, and I'm like,
Oh my. Yeah.
Oh my
That would
God. You
be
have to
my
be
reaction.
brave.
oh my
You have to be
God.
confident in your skill to do that.
Well, yeah, no, she got the skills. She doesn't use patterns. She just like beep, boom, boom, like
That's
pins.
so
Like
dope.
that's her everyday job, and like the summer is her like golden season. So
Yeah.
like I'll be hanging out with her and just being like, oh my God, like what do you do with these like fabric scraps? Like there's so
Hmm.
much hand embroidered, like heaps of them. And she's just like, eh. And I'm like, all right, I'm taking some of these, homie. Like, and so
Seriously.
I'll toss it. She has like a cool like mirror, and
Hmm.
she'll just like make a patchwork frame for the mirrors and stuff
That's
like
so
that with like
cool.
fabric straps. Yeah, I love me some Melania time, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh,
I need a class with Rania.
I know.
That's those
I'm
skills. I
like,
need that.
yeah, we're gonna have to get in touch with Rania because inshallah, we're going to Palestine this summer. So,
Really? Wait, when? I'm trying to go, y'all. I mean,
Wait,
I'm
okay,
going.
listen.
it's really funny
Okay.
because I suggested this idea to Amani like a month ago, and she's like, "No, it's not the right time." Blah blah
Well, and
blah.
I should also say I said that because that morning I had brunch and the Ammo who owned the restaurant, he was just telling me he was supposed to go to Palestine like the week before and his mom was like, "Nah, bro." Like
Well,
and
that's
they were like
everyone
and
all the time. I swear to God,
Exactly.
no, like
Thank
right
you. Thank
now. So I was
you.
like,
every
"Okay.
single time I go to
Look at you guys
Palestine, it's
shaming
like
me."
every time I go to Palestine, it's like isn't it like super fucked up out there? Isn't it dangerous? And I'm
Yeah.
like, when has it not been, dude? Like, yes,
Exactly.
I
it's an
Exactly.
know.
occupation. Like, it
Yeah.
is messed up out there, but that's not gonna stop me. Like, the mural that I did this summer, which was a
Mhm.
really cool one. Like, I had a residency with
Mhm.
Space Hub in Biarritz, and they
Mhm.
were like, and I had met them in 2022, and I
Mhm.
came back to Palestine in 2023, and was like, y'all still want me to do some work with y'all? And like,
Uh-huh.
we built a residency out of it. Like the day I went to go buy paint, like there was a hardware store in a town called thobe-makers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so like we went to the hardware store that same day. That like village burnt to the ground from the freaking settlers. Not burnt to the
Oof.
ground, but like
Yeah,
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 I know what
decent
you
amount of
mean.
like
yeah.
violence. Like that
Yeah.
same day, it was, like we missed it by an hour. But it's like, am I gonna stop my life because these
Yeah.
settlers like are trying to like ruin generations for us?
Mm-hmm.
Nah, man. Like I'm gonna still go and buy my paint and paint in the bed and like and
Mm-hmm.
make our culture like and advance our culture and make it beautiful, make the places
Yes.
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
like what they want is for us to just like feel like we're like hopeless, helpless, and like to stay away from Palestine. Like that's what they want.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Yeah.
Exactly.
not.
Yeah.
I don't want to feed into that bullshit. Sorry.
No, I feel that, and we're going to a wedding in Dubai at the end of May, and I think right after we're gonna try to get in on so
I
beginning
heard
of
that it's
June.
easy to get in these days. I don't know. The last two people I know who went to Palestine after this genocide started, like they let us in, no questions asked.
That's
But
good to know.
that's because of that visa waiver program.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, we'll talk about it because we're gonna if we go, it'll be the first week of June, so maybe we'll be able to
I love
coordinate.
how Manny is just like dropping this. She's so funny.
I know.
So
y'all
she
can
was.
edit it out. Y'all can edit it out.
No, I love it. I
That's
think I'm so
fun.
happy. I'm so glad it's being recorded right now because I'm gonna point to this in June and be like, no
She's
take
gonna hold me
backs. Yeah,
accountable.
yeah.
Carlos, I'm buying my ticket next week. Carlos,
I'm
we're
actually
figuring it out.
going this summer through like this research residency with the
Hmm.
Okay. Oh wait. Okay. Yeah.
They're
We
Yes,
wanted.
sending
We did
yeah.
let's
want.
talk.
Yeah, we did want to
Yes.
talk about the research residency. Please tell us more.
Yeah, so there's like this gallery and like arts incubator in St. Louis, and I've
Mhm.
worked with them for years. Like my first studio that I mentioned, like that I had in St. Louis was like in the basement of this gallery. And like
That's so cool.
they have a residency program, and like usually the like a residency is basically like an institutional, like institutionally backed like art retreat almost. In
Mhm.
some ways, like they'll like give you space or studio or whatever to like develop a project or like do some research or like write an essay or whatever your residency guidelines entail. But they usually bring people in from outside of St. Louis to St. Louis, and me and another local artist were like chosen to be like the first luminary local artists in residence. And
Amazing.
so, and like basically it's like, like we have our own studios in the city, so it's not necessarily like to develop a certain like project for the week or two. Like it's a year-long residency, and they're like the mine is more like research oriented.
Hmm.
And so there's like a lot of things that like for my practice, especially with the textiles and whatnot, um, that like there's just no access to it in America. Not enough.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I can go to the library in Ramallah and find 50 million more resources on Tatreez than like
Mm.
I
A hundred
can
percent.
on like Amazon books or whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there I'll inshallah I'll be going to Palestine
Oh,
within
good. Okay, so it's part of the like they're gonna like fund a little bit.
yeah, no, they like there's an artist stipend and like my stipend is going towards the flight. You know?
Amazing. Yeah,
Amazing.
perfect. Yeah, yeah,
When
yeah.
what's your okay? Like, do you have at this point? Do you have a specific research focus?
I think this year, so like the past couple years, I've just been like doing like independent study situations in Palestine. So like,
Mm-hmm.
but I think this time, so I've been making these like really wild weaving sculptures that are like made of razor wire, which is
Mm-hmm.
like the wire that they put on top of borders and like the apartheid wall and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I've been using that as my material in some of my projects to make like these like floating magic carpets made out of like, what would deter you from traveling, which is a border. And so like yeah, and I think like I've been wanting to use like figure out how to like combine like an agricultural like situation with the razor wire.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's probably going to be part of my focus is like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, going and making some weavings and like talking to people about like, how they build structures for their grapes and stuff like that. Like
Oh, that's
mixing the
so
farming with
cool.
the weaving and like the
Mhm.
yeah, stuff like that. I'm
Very
not
cool.
100% sure yet, but I also
Yeah.
like we'll always be going to like Abu Munzir's in Ramallah and like bothering them about fabric too, and like talking to the ladies of the village who sew and stitch. Um, it's always a good time to just like go to Palestine and just be like, I'm a sponge to absorb knowledge.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
Is
this time I
your
think I want a more agricultural approach though.
is your work accessible in St. Louis? Like if people were in town, like do you have things on display or is your studio open to visit? Anything like that?
I mean, anytime someone hits me up, I will definitely open my studio for them to
Yeah.
visit. That especially if they're like, "Your work." I have a piece up in St. Louis right now at the Luminary, the
Mhm.
gallery
Okay.
that I'm using it of. And it's a pretty cool piece. It's like a tufted rug, and then my first razor wire weaving, and then like some metal detectors. It's a cool installation. In a group show
Yeah.
called Moving Stories. It's like a show about migration. So yeah, but yeah, that's like the only place my work is. No, I gotta. There's another show that I'm in actually in St. Louis as well with my collective, but that one is like specifically like an opening and a closing and no
Okay.
gallery time.
Mm,
Um,
mhm.
but yeah, the closing will be on April 13th.
Okay.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Very
Very
cool.
cool. Yeah. I mean, inshallah, we'll get to see your work on display more and more places. And I will have one more thing before we wrap up that we always like to ask. Are there any major life lessons that you've gained through Tatreez?
I think like yes, obviously. Like there's like to honor the ancestors first and
Mm-hmm.
foremost, right? And then just like that, like what something is doesn't necessarily have to be what it will be. If
Mm.
that makes sense. And so
Yep.
like just because it's like stitched into a fabric, like doesn't mean that it has to be fabric forever. It could be something
Mm-hmm.
else. I like in the past year started like tattooing people, like hand poke tattooing. And
Mm-hmm.
like a part of like why it came naturally to me is because of my embroidery practice, for sure. And
Mm-hmm.
so like yeah, to like and for me like all my ink is like Tatreez
Oh
everywhere.
my
Like there's like
God.
yeah.
That looks so
Like,
good.
I'll like have I like bring my own designs to like tattoo artists and be like, can you put this on my body, please?
We
Like
gotta we gotta talk. We gotta talk.
Yeah.
when we meet in Palestine, maybe I'll give you a tattoo.
Yo,
I'm
there we
I'm
go.
saying
There we
I'm
go.
I'm ready. I'm ready for my next one, and I think it needs to be Tetris related. So,
Oh, it has to be. That's for me. I'm like,
hmm
there's nothing else. Well, there are some things, but
yeah.
like, there's
I
nothing
have
else
my I
I
have
do.
my key here. I have my
I got
keys,
my little
but
koala rug. I got my
love
olive branch
it.
up there. Like,
Love it. So Palestinian. I love it.
there's some cool artists. One of my friends in Brooklyn. I don't know if you know about Sema Tattoo.
I follow
Um,
Seema. Seema's work
Sema
is
does some
dope.
beautiful Tatreez work. There's a lot of cool tattoo artists actually who are doing like good Tatreez work, which I love so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the big life lesson is like to be patient and like honor the ancestors and like you know just like be open to other
Mm,
possibilities essentially.
I love that. No, I really like that phrase that you said of like what something is doesn't mean that's what it has to. Like I love that.
hmm
That resonates really well too. Even if like for example, like for me, I haven't necessarily explored other mediums. That's like not freaks me out. I'm not gonna lie. Like you were talking about how they were asking you to like put the screens, and you were like, "Tell me less," and I'm like, "Oh my god, no!" Like that would freak me out. I would be like, "No, that's too
I
much."
love a guided challenge,
I know, I know. I'm gonna like just steal some of that energy. I'm gonna try to like absorb that energy.
Send it
Um,
your way. I send it
There
See,
we
your way.
go.
I'm taking it. I'm taking it
There
exactly.
we
I love
go.
that. I love that. But no, I really love that lesson. I think that's so powerful because yeah, even if you're still just stitching in the traditional way, like there are so many ways to be innovative with the actual stitching itself. And I think having a little bit of that opened mindset to explore and try something new and just like see where you want to go and take it is really powerful. Yeah. Okay. So Kiki, before we say goodbye, tell us all the places that people can find you and follow you and support your work. And we'll obviously put them in the show notes, but if you don't mind sharing them as well.
Yeah, I'm so bad because all I have is Meta right now. But you can follow me on Instagram. That's basically where I'm at. And I got my brand, which is Punk Ass Arab, which is what it is, at punk underscore ass underscore Arab. And then for like my other types of projects that don't necessarily have to do like merch and branding, and just like to stay updated on all things Palestine and like yeah, whatever. Is Lokiki. LOW underscore KEY underscore KI. Yeah.
Thank you
Great.
so
We'll
much
put it
for
in the
being
show
with
notes.
us. Yeah.
Thank
Thank you guys
you.
so much. It was a lovely chat. I was
We'll
so
talk.
nervous. And it
No.
turns out
We're
it's fine.
yeah, we're just two obsessed Tathreezers just
Yeah.
trying to chat about Tathreez with other
Yeah,
Tathreezers.
it's a good
So
conversation, honestly.
amazing. Thank you so much, Kiki.
Yeah, hopefully I get to meet you guys in real life soon.
Inshallah in Palestine,
Inshallah.
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 That, very that.
Okay, I am so into that energy. I just love everything about all her. She's just so full of ideas, so full of ideas. And what's really cool about her is that she executes, you know?
Yeah,
Like there are
yeah,
some people who have a ton of ideas and then it just kind of sits in their head. But she actually goes out and she'll like, nothing scares her. All the
yeah.
mediums, all the different tech, all the, research. And like, I love that. I think that's such a powerful approach to life, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't, there was so much to talk about, and we kind of honestly just like, we're really chatting, but we didn't talk too much about like Kiki's background as an artist, like from college, but like as she alluded to that, like she went to school, art school and stuff like that. So I feel like I'll take me for example, right? I considered myself an artist because of Tatreez. Kiki is like, Kiki was just like an artist.
Yes,
And
yes.
an artist who, and I don't know if that's like the right way to say it, so no one come for me. But like, but you know what I mean? Like I feel like it's almost very natural for somebody who comes into art as just I'm an artist to like be able to more easily see these multiple mediums as opposed to like myself who came into art really through Tatreez and am now only starting to explore. And like you said it, that you were scared. I feel that too. Like I really want
Yeah.
to explore. And I've talked about a couple projects that I have lined up that I want to play with, but I resonate with the like, oh, it's like I'm scared because
Yeah.
Tatreez, especially when you're stitching on Tatreez fabric, can be very controlled in a
Yes,
lot of ways.
exactly. Yeah. And actually, you're reminding me, I really wanted to ask her, but I forgot. But I want to pick her brain on color theory. Like, what is
Oh, I
that?
know.
And like, does she have any tips for people? Like, is there a science that people can kind of tap into or a calculation that people can tap into when they're thinking about colors? Because that is so, I'm sure it's like transfers so naturally from any other art form. So that was, I'm going to try to see if I can catch her in person at some point because my
Yeah.
in-laws are based in Missouri. So we're going to see if I can go get a follow-up
There you
interview.
go. Oh my God. And
Yeah.
go to her studio and check out all
Yeah.
her amazing work. I'm like, when will I ever be able to get to St. Louis? I'm like, But you know
It's
what?
not as
Like,
far as New York. So,
it
you'd be
isn't,
surprised.
but like, when am I gonna go? I don't know. Maybe I need to
Yeah.
make a Kiki trip. The Kiki Effect
The
is
Kiki effect has hit.
which I
Yeah.
love. By the way, I
Yeah.
love the Kiki Effect.
Yeah, me too. I love that.
So amazing. But yeah, no, I really love the fact that she explores different mediums and incorporates Tatreez into all these different forms of art, and just really excited to see what she continues to create and put out into the world. And I think it's also like a good it's like a good inspo for all of us Tatreezers too. Like I would say both Tatreezers and non-Tatreezers who maybe play in different arts or just want to try. Like you don't need to limit your Tatreez
Yes.
to just like a needle and thread and 14 count Ida. Like, I think you should explore and play around with it. And I'm very inspired to do that, like seeing her work and hearing what she had to say.
Yeah, and also you don't have to even stick to the same pattern that you see all the time. Like
Mm-hmm.
explore making your own designs, try out different
Yes,
colors, mix it up a little bit. There's so many opportunities. Yeah, innovation at its finest.
100%. I love, like, what did she say? Refresh. A
Yes.
little refresh with a little tradition. So I love
Yes.
that. Well, thank you all so much for listening to Tatreez Talk. We want to hear about your Tatreez journeys, of course. So please share your stories with us at tatreeztalk@gmail.com. And we might even have you on an upcoming episode. Do not forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite listening platforms. And of course, leave us a 5-star and only a 5-star review. You can follow me at Min Amani and Lena at Lena's Thobe. And of course, follow the pod at Tatreez Talk. We will talk to you soon.